Hey there, all you holes, poles, chicks, dicks, guys, gals, whatever. Come With Us podcast is proud to be supported by Manscaped. Thank you for checking out the episode. We've got Sally Blanky coming up, but before we get to it, I want to say thank you to Manscaped because they have partnered with us, and not only have they partnered with us, we have all three been using them. Beth uses them on her lady bits, Tina does too, and Beth uses it on her nose as well. I use it on my junk all the time. I trim weekly or bi-week or every twice a week, whatever needs to be done. But go check out the Lawnmower 4.0 at manscaped.com. It's got revolutionary, really sharp blades. It's got the little guards on there to protect your stuff. And also, it's got a light, an actual flashlight built into the trimmer. So when you're down there looking around doing all your stuff, you can see what's going on, which is what's really important. It's a nice, clean, smooth shave. Get to manscaped.com, use our promo code, come with us. You get 20% off and free shipping. So that Lawnmower 4.0 is great. It works great on all your body hair, above the belt, below the belt, whatever. But also, try to check out that Weed Whacker 2.0. The Weed Whacker 2.0 uses everything to trim your nose, your ears, all that stuff. Stuff that, maybe you didn't learn about doing it when you were younger. Nose hairs need to be trimmed. Trim mine every morning. You just stick that Weed Whacker in there. It's got really sharp blades. It goes and it takes care of you. Go check everything out. They've got the ball deodorant. They've got the anti-chafing gel. They've got so much at manscaped.com. Manscaped.com, promo code come with us. Get 20% off and free shipping on your order. All right, let's talk with Sally Blanky about some sex parties.
Are you saying you faked with me?
Yeah.
Wrong. Now you're single.
What do you know about sexual relations?
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
I'm a little worried about being a slut.
You're listening to the Come With Us podcast, talking the good, the kinky, and the ugly. Here are your hosts, Beth, Aaron, and Tina.
Hello, all you sexy holes and poles. Welcome to Come With Us podcast, where you're part of all of the sexy, naughty, fun conversations that everyone wants to listen in on. Today, we've got a wonderfully special guest. She's a wonderful friend of mine. She is just a role model in all sorts of really interesting, cool ways. She's actually a modern day courtesan. Do you know what a courtesan is? A courtesan was a powerful woman who had sexual relationships with royal, noble, and wealthy men of society for money, right? But in fact, the term courtesan started around the 1540s. And meant literally a woman of the court. In other words, this was a woman who was close to the kings and queens and ruling powers. And yet, in modern day language, she was a high-level prostitute. But in a time when women couldn't get power, the courtesan women, they had some amazing power and access and so much money, they could become millionaires. Well, our guest, Sally Blanky, is actually very much a modern day courtesan. You can call her a sugar baby if you want, but she's amazing. And she's here with us from Seraphina's World, where she has created a community where she teaches men and women to explore their sexuality, their sensuality through different experiences, i.e. sex parties. And we'll talk about those things too. So welcome to the show. I'm Beth Darling, your sexy genius, here from sexyedschool.com, where smart, successful, and even spiritual people go for their graduate degree in love. It's my sexy pleasure to be here with you. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Tina. And yay, welcome, Sally. I'm so thrilled. It's taken us a while to make this happen, but so glad that you're here today.
Thank you for having me. Well, I should say, before people start calling me for courtesan jobs, that I did actually, a little while ago, hang up my shoes on that, because I kind of feel like it's a very good experiment for a woman to explore, and we can talk about that a little bit later, but it's not necessarily a world that you would want to kind of stay in, because it could be a little grimy. So
okay, there you go. Well, so here we talk about the good, the bad, the ugly. So I'm glad to hear that, right? There's nothing in the world that is all good and nothing in the world that is all bad generally. So we'll dive in. I guess the first question, and maybe if you could give us an idea of your journey into this world of sexy, because it's not like you grew up you grew up educated and everything and smart like I did, and then somehow at some point you found yourself in this world of sexy.
Yeah, I think that I'm like the least likely person, because like a lot of people, when they hear what I do, like they just kind of like label you the bad girl. And I probably am like the least likely bad girl. So, pretty much most of my life I was in kind of monogamously married. I went to an all-girls boarding school in England.
Wow.
So, like there was very little opportunity to kind of date and explore when I was growing up. Then I went to a very, very arty college. I was dancing, I was dancing pretty much most of my life. So I didn't even start to date till I was 21. And I literally, the first day that I came to New York when I graduated college, I met a guy in the street who I married. So
oh my gosh.
It wasn't until way later that, my kids were teenagers that I kind of like, got divorced and went on to this journey. And I mean, it's kind of like a funny story that I happened to date a male stripper. I mean, it is funny. He was much younger than me. And so I went on this kind of crazy journey. And I will say,
wait, was this this was after your marriage?
Yes.
Okay, your marriage ends, you've got kids, teenagers, and then you meet a male stripper. Okay, gotcha.
Yes. Well, I mean, the timeline might have been a little more muddy than that, but we won't analyze that with a microscope. Yeah. And now, like, I'm giving myself the bad girl crown. So then I went on really an incredible journey of, going from a very kind of vanilla lifestyle to, for the first time in my life, having an open relationship, exploring sex parties. When I first went to a sex party, I actually didn't like it. It wasn't like I was like, woohoo, I'm so horny, this is the best thing in the world. I think the first kind of parties I went to was more of kind of like a swinger party. And to me, I kind of was a little turned off by that dynamic, because I think in the swinger world, it's more, a lot of time kind of couples kind of pairing off together. And, to me, it was kind of performative. But in my head, something in me was like, you know what? I think I can throw a better party than this, because already I produced a kind of burlesque cabaret show in the city. So I was already very much involved. And I also taught burlesque for a long time. So I was very involved in kind of women's sensuality, women's insecurities about their body, the kind of things that women found sexy. So already kind of like something was planted within me that I wanted to have a party that was more appealing to women. And then that set me out on a journey in the kind of New York metropolitan area to kind of break into all the different kinds of communities, the kink communities, the sex positive communities, the Burning Man communities, just to kind of see all the different things that were out there. Because from the very beginning, I knew that the party I wanted to throw would be kind of melding different worlds, like having people from all different areas, and then fucking with everybody's minds. And if I was allowed to say a bad word.
No.
Wait, fucking isn't a bad word to us.
Good.
No. Yeah. Mean words. Those are bad words to me. Here, anything else goes. So, yeah. Okay. So that's so interesting. And so, even though you didn't really like the sexy parties, you still had this urge to create something.
Yeah. And then the more I explored, then I found communities in New York that I really did like the parties. And I found people that I really liked. And it was kind of interesting because in 2020, right before the pandemic, me and my ex-boyfriend had been planning to open a nightclub in New York, a lifestyle nightclub in New York. And then at the end of that year, we had broken up. And I had thought to myself, am I going to even stay in this world? And I took a break from it probably for about 6 or 7 months. And then truthfully, I really missed the friendships. And also, I think having gone, pretty much at that point for kind of 5 years being in that world, it wasn't really possible for me to go back. I think my tastes, my style of communication, my way of being in the world was so different that, I would go on kind of like a Bumble or whatever to try and date somebody. And, it just was so kind of dry and crusty, if I tried to date someone who on paper was appropriate for me, really had no interest in them,
Yeah. Not that Tina and I know anything about dating issues. No. Right?
No.
Just had a few things. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was saying it was very interesting, after kind of taking a break from that world, I think it was like around August or September of 2021, when I did go back to that world and I was just kind of meeting people in real time, then I was just able to meet people so easily because I was with my people, so, and that's the interesting thing, because a lot of people will give that world a bad rap. But I think that there are so many excellent and beautiful people in that world, because they're often people who really demand excellence in every area of their life. So, for example, you can go to an erotic party. You don't have to play at a play party, but you can still meet really cool and amazing people that you might want to date. So it's a whole other universe.
So let's clarify for those people who don't know, because when you say play at a party, what do you mean? It's not board games you're talking about. Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about kind of the lifestyle and what are known as play parties. So, we started talking about Sally throws a sex party. A sex party is usually called a play party. Which I always found so ridiculous. What are we going to do? Like get a sandbox? But a play party is usually, a social event, and it could take, so many different forms. I
think of play as BDSM.
No, not at all. A play party is just kind of like a term for a party where there is any kind of erotic play or the opportunity for it.
Okay. So, all right. So the opportunity.
And so are these parties, are they weekly? Did you throw them, once a year? Or did you used to throw them once a year when you used to throw them? And what's the grandioseness of them? When did you have themes and stuff like that?
Well, my party, I throw it once a month. And I took a break throwing my party during the pandemic because, I'm not judging anyone who went to a play party, but under the situation of the pandemic, I didn't feel comfortable charging people money for a party.
Right.
So, my party, but this isn't all parties. I want my party to be a real party where there's music, there's entertainment, maybe there's a lot of sexy things that a woman can do without taking her clothes off.
Right.
At the beginning of the party. Also, every single woman who's come to the party, I will have talked to them about what to expect. What are their boundaries? Just because you see other people, jumping into a pile, that doesn't mean that you have to. So my party, it starts at 10 o'clock at night, and until about midnight or so, it will be just like any other cocktail party. Maybe there's dancing, maybe there's a burlesque number, maybe there's a pole dancer. Maybe there's someone doing shibari bondage, maybe someone giving fire massage, lots of kind of fun sensual activities.
And let me also say, you have a dress code for your parties, right? This is not, you can't just come in yucky shorts and t-shirt.
No.
You have to dress up, even if it's revealing.
Exactly. There is usually always a theme, and you can either come in the theme or as if you're going to a very high-end kind of sexy cocktail party, or kink attire. But you cannot just come in, like, you have to dress very intentionally.
And do you have to be invited?
Yes.
Yeah.
I send out invitations, and if somebody wants to come who I don't know, I will screen them.
Right.
So, yeah.
And is it like can you bring a partner? Because you talk about women, obviously.
Yes. It's definitely couples, women, and men.
Okay.
Because for me, I don't want one of those parties where it's just couples. That's kind of a swinger party.
Yeah.
I want there to be that chance for people to meet each other.
Mm-hmm.
To be a single man who is invited to my party, you have to be a very special man, because most men do not know how to behave in that setting. Mm-hmm. So, I do not want there to be a kind of creeper vibe. So the kind of man who comes is someone who is very socially adept, very good at placing their attention on women, has no expectation of getting laid. Like, they want to be in that environment and knows how to handle themselves. And you know what? Probably the truth is they know a lot of other people in that world, and they're probably going to have a great night, but they're not that kind of hungry person who's not in that world and hasn't yet learned how to behave. And that's not to be rude to people, because how can you know how to behave? I, as a woman, didn't know how to behave. I got myself in positions where I probably gave too much away at first, which is why every single woman who comes through the door, either I or somebody else has spoken to them about what's going to go down. And also, my party is a very consent-based party. So we have a consent speech, and we always have like an erotic ritual. And before the erotic ritual is always a consent speech. So, it's a very specific framework for what is going to happen in the evening.
Which I think is important, because again, when you are new to this, or if you're going to a new city, you're going someplace where you aren't familiar with the players and the people, knowing who's running the parties is huge, because people have reputations. Yeah. And the key to these kinds of successful parties is that consent, like if there's any bit of trouble, if somebody doesn't receive a no particularly well, they need to be gone, like immediately. And when you have management that will do that at parties, then you can go and feel safe. I have one friend who laughs and says they feel safer naked at a sexy party, at a good sexy party, right, than they do fully clothed at a bar. Because at a bar, there are no limits. People are pushing things, and nobody's kicking out the ones that are causing trouble quickly until fists are thrown. So there is that weird sense of you actually can be so much safer and feel so invited to say no to whatever it is that doesn't work for you.
I think when it's done really well, I have an amazing friend in New York called Chris Gillum, who throws a lot of different parties. And when I first came back into that world, it was really because I had a lot of friendships within his community. And when I went to one of the first parties that I went back to, I was really like, this is such a parallel universe, because, the people are just so warm and kind and respectful. And the usual kind of issues in the world about kind of sexism, racial tension, they just don't really exist in that world. when the host curates it right. So
Right, that's key.
I was so appreciative of, being back, in his world. And my party is very different from his, but I aspire to have a similar kind of vibe, with my community.
What about condoms? Do you provide condoms? Are people supposed to bring condoms? Is it cool to use? Is it cool not to use?
Absolutely. During the consent speech, they will point out what is called safer sex stations, because, like no sex is completely safe. But, they will have not just condoms, they'll have, wipes and this and that and lube and, this, that, and the other. And I've also noticed if anyone sees someone, not using a condom, I mean, okay, if it's with their partner, who everyone knows is their partner, it's kind of very frowned on. Like people will kind of be, oh, look, that person is like, it's definitely kind of frowned on,
That's good. I appreciate that. Aaron, go ahead.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Aaron, if you have a question.
I mean, the one that comes to mind right now. So, like location types, do you use just like one giant room where everybody or is it kind of set up kind of like a house party where if you couple up with somebody or you feel a vibe with somebody or some buddies and you want to have a little bit of privacy, you can find a room with a door that, lets you kind of go off and do your own thing without not worrying about everybody watching?
Well, there are definitely house parties like that. And there are also clubs where there are some smaller rooms.
Yeah.
My party used to be in basically a custom built space where the play area, we're not talking about sandboxes, was different kind of beds with kind of drapes around them around the main party room. The new party that I'm throwing, on my build up to opening a club, it has like one room, which is kind of like a big party room that's going to have like a stage and a constant flow of music, entertainment, very kind of sexy, kind of cabaret vibe, edgy. And then there's going to be a completely separate play area. So it will be just one large room that people will have to go into with a partner. So you don't have that creeper vibe. And we even have consent monitors on the door to kind of make sure that people kind of go with a partner, stay with a partner. Once in that room, you can mix it up and do what you want. But I just don't want single guys going into that room, watching, because that is a vibe that most people don't like. That there are specific parties, not my party, that, have kind of like a gangbang vibe. But I mean, and that may sound terrible, but it's kind of curated and that's what everyone there wants, the women and the men included. It's very consensual. So there are parties that single men can go to. My party is not that kind of party because I really am thinking at the top end, I want it to be sexy and romantic for the women, because if it's sexy and romantic for the women at the front end, it's going to get very, very dirty at the end for everyone. But you have to start with the women being really enjoying themselves, feeling playful, getting full at the front end so that everyone is like in a really chill mood.
Yeah.
And I think for men who the idea when they hear romantic, they sometimes discount because this, TV Hallmark Channel version of romantic. I think the term seductive is really much more apt in the case of your parties, because it's not about cliche chocolates and flowers and prim and proper. It is this idea that women and that sensuality, sexuality is celebrated, that it is okay, that it is fun, that it is beautiful, that you want to move, you want to touch, you want to be seen, you want to look like. you don't want lurkers. Those creep.
And
I say
also-
there's a difference of lurkers versus people just are
Yes.
also equally involved and looking at you and you're looking at them, and it's this idea that you're sharing things together.
Well, I think that it's like, listen, you have people there. It's a play party. People came there with the intention of either getting down to business or meeting other like-minded people. People are dressed sexy. A lot of women are wearing lingerie. And then when I said I like to fuck with people's minds, that's good too. It is seductive because there's an element of fear in everyone because they don't quite know, what is that bitch Sally gonna do? Like, truthfully, I'm gonna do something very nice and pleasurable and fun, but it's that thing of kind of like everyone's seen Eyes Wide Shut and they're like,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Eyes wide shut when we first started talking.
it's something way better than that. Like, who wants a bunch of people in stupid, like, what do they have, rabbit heads on? You know, it's something really fun. It's something, actually what I usually do is something very kind of charming, you know, and surprising. So, you know, people are going to be kind of delighted. And then it's also very interesting because there'll always be some swingers there. And usually they're not used to that. They're not used to a consent speech. So they might be tipsy and try and laugh at it or whatever. And I'll be really strict and haul them in. So it's kind of cool because it's a chance for me to take kind of control of the room. But people need to be taken control of because they need to know that someone is in charge so that they can then go and have like a safe and juicy experience.
Right. I feel so. And I think the difference, going back to your Eyes Wide Shut, when I saw that, the problem is, and I've been to some parties like this too, where people are walking around, but they're actually not really inhabiting their body. It's as if they're trying to play a role. They're trying to pretend to be sexier or to be cool or something. And that difference versus people who are just really, who are feeling sexy, who are feeling cool, and they're just being themselves. That, to me, that energy is so completely different. And that's why I didn't like the movie Eyes Wide Shut. I thought it was just mostly awkward and didn't appeal to me. But watching people, like a woman, particularly if she's not someone who's been very comfortable with her body or with her sensual side, and when she puts something on, like a piece of lingerie or a piece of sexy attire, and she suddenly just feels like herself, it's like she's glowing. The energy is crazy. And that to me is incredible and unique. And that's, I think people should experience some sort of really cool sex party. Sorry, Tina, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, like, what about like age ranges for the people who come, and also like in terms of these to me sound like heterosexual parties mostly. I'm guessing there are people who throw other, you know, like you know, if you're LGBT, yeah. Sorry.
Well, this is, I would say that my world is basically sex positive.
Right.
So the party that I curate, it's less queer. It's more, I would say that it's more straight with bi women, but occasionally, like if there's a bi man there, no one would ever, like basically anything goes, and it's very inclusive.
Right.
But I guess I would say I know who my client is.
Right.
So it's kind of curated for that.
Right.
So, but no one would ever be made to feel uncomfortable.
Right. Okay.
And you're right, though, there are different parties, just the same way that there are different clubs and different people go. And so absolutely, no matter who you are, what you're into, if you're interested in a more BDSM kinky party, there are those. If you want just more the swingers, you know, obviously there's just different categories and different people that are hopefully have good reputations within each little realm.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm really excited to have the permanent club, to be able to have, you know, kind of have space for different communities on different days, you know?
Yeah.
Right. And when do you think you're going to open your club? Do you have a
Well, I'm just getting back into throwing my party. So I want to kind of build up my guest list again while looking for spaces. And the goal I set for myself was within this year. So fingers crossed.
On wood.
Hopefully.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Well,
hey, y'all, I think we're coming close on sort of time. I would suggest maybe if you're willing to kind of to do this again, I'd love to have you on a separate episode and where we can really dive into the sugar daddy stuff, if that's okay with you, because
pleasure.
I think this is totally fascinating and there's so much more. And I think we'll have a ton of questions also about the sugar daddy stuff.
absolutely.
Does that work for y'all?
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we go, obviously, like the way you describe yourself as host of these parties, I'm going to assume that you don't play during them because you're kind of more busy monitoring and playing referee or being the person who's in charge and don't want to get carried away with your own fun.
God, I should plead the fifth on this.
That's fine
you
too.
Absolutely can do that. Always.
I have sometimes got swept up in the fun, but I would say that I feel like I always have my eye on the room, and there's always, consent monitors, or I always have a partner there, and there's always security. So I kind of feel like getting back into it because now, like, I'm being very intentional with what I want to do, and because it's kind of like a new venture, I kind of highly doubt that I'll be playing at the first couple of parties unless in my sandbox. But
I like the idea that it's so much fun that even though you do have this business, right, you have this host mentality, that it is so appealing to you that you're enthusiastic about it. This isn't just something you're doing as pure business. This is your pleasure too.
Well, you know what the truth of it is? My list, I curated a list of my friends, and I think people come because they want to party with me is one of the reasons. So, I think that's kind of like a big part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You created the community and you work with, or you want around you. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we'll have to go experience. We'll have to take Erin and Tina to a play party sometime. I know Erin's wife would totally be thrilled. So.
Oh yeah,
we'll work on that one.
You better draw up some divorce papers before you take me.
Erin, have you ever been before?
No, never.
Because that's one of the things that I really specialize in is couples who haven't been before, and so many people. Like now, like they thank me for it. Or a lot of time, like a girl who likes that world and maybe she starts dating someone and she wants to introduce him into that world. And then still now, years later, like they thank me for it because it's all about doing it nice and easy.
Yeah. I mean, my whole thing, like I love talking to people and I love getting to know like all the things that make people tick and their backstories and all that stuff. So like that would be like my whole thought process. If I were in that element, I wouldn't be like noticing the sexy. I'd more like want to learn about every single person and be like, okay, what exactly in your life led you up to this exact moment where you're standing here at this kind of a party? And how did you get here? How do you feel about all that kind of stuff? Like I would just walk around and interview every single person and want to learn everything about them.
And the thing that I usually say to couples when they come together is perhaps the first time, just be voyeurs. And then when you go home, you're going to go nuts together. And also the other thing is for anyone listening, some people hearing about this, you think, oh my God, those people are like the craziest degenerates. But the thing that I've really learned is that many of the couples in that world and the married people have some of the most rock solid marriages because the whole thing about kind of cheating and whatever, it's off the table because they're constantly keeping themselves full, and they have this whole kind of sexy life together. So to me, I think that is really admirable because I really consider myself monogamish, but I think Like I really do, you know, after all of the journeys, it's not that I want to be out with this person or out with that person, but I do like the idea of having this element in my life with a partner. So say you're in Paris, oh, let's go to that club. Say you're in Vegas. It's not like I personally don't want it to be my whole social life. But I think, you know, once in a while, like it can really spice things up.
Yeah. I mean, you can't eat lobster every single meal. That's why you go out for a lobster dinner once a month and you're all right, cool. That's good.
Yeah.
It's a good analogy.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you. We're going to wrap this up and I can't wait. We will have you back on next week and we will talk about the sugar daddy stuff. So thank you very much, Sally Blanky. So pleased to have you and appreciate you just being so forthright with us. And definitely, I think, like I can't wait to go to your party. And I will be there soon. So, all right. For our listeners, Aaron, tell them how to reach us. If you've got questions, you know, holler at us, but you can also go find Sally at seraphinasworld.com. That's SERAFINAS world.com, seraphinasworld.com. And you can find us.
Yeah, you can find us on all the different social medias, Facebook and Instagram at Come With Us Podcast, on Twitter at Come With Us Pod. You can DMs are open on all three of those options. You can even find us on, or you can email us, comewithusconfessions@gmail.com. It's Come With Us Confessions, concerns, episode suggestions, everything you want to know. If you, you know, we answered a couple questions in recent episodes because, well, sometimes when you have a question, all of a sudden it sparks us and going, hey, we haven't addressed that before. So there are no stupid questions. Feel free to reach out to us. comewithusconfessions@gmail.com. And yeah, I will also put a link to Seraphina's World in the episode description. So if you're listening right now and not watching, just scroll down to the episode description. You can find it there.
Sounds great. All right. Thank you. And again, I'm Beth Darling, your sexy genius from sexyedschool.com. Please go to sexyedschool.com. Use the promo code Come With Us for 20% off your courses there. You can take the How to Blow His Mind While Loving His Body or the Art of Orally Pleasuring Her. Take those before you go to these sexy parties and you'll see what a good education can do, because not everybody. There are a lot of people who do a lot of stuff. They don't always do it well. And I want you to do things well. All right. Big hugs and love. Thank you so much for being with us. Thanks for being part of these bare naked conversations about love, sex, and relationships. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Come With Us podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media at Come With Us Podcast and send in your questions, comments, and confessions to comewithusconfessions@gmail.com. Until next time, keep it fun, flirty, and naughty.